I did want to mention one thing. I don't want to be cloying about it, but it actually was impressive to me. Like I was like how. Like I said, I was following you when trigger warnings were invented, and then following you for the backlash, and following you the whole time. And you've never, whereas we've been podcasting the same amount of time, and I've just been like hitting garbage cans and swerving around and like, I don't want to hurt anybody, but I hurt everybody. And but you have a scripted podcast, and it's like you can watch the earth move beneath your podcast's feet. But what emerges, I'm listening to your most recent season, and you did Pride Week, and you did this like LGBT like episode, and it's like I honestly like there's a fear in the back of my head when I think about this stuff. I'm like, yeah, but just don't like like let's not have that be adding water to something or feel like, because the Nazis call it virtue signaling, and it just makes it's like it truly. I listened to like scripted horror podcasts, and it's like I'm not virtue signaling or white knighting or whatever they call it when I say it really struck me that we like gay voices, gay perspectives and things like make shit like horror better, because either A, you have a classic story that's like a husband and wife, but it's like a husband and husband, and it's like all the more like because it's a horror story and the focus is on this fucked up shit that's going on. You're like, run, grab your husband and run, and you come through a visceral experience, like having been trained neurologically to think of people that are different as the same, which is like a healing. That's one kind of good thing. But then the other thing is like when the shit goes deep and dark and earns those trigger warnings. There was an author who was just talking about his. It was like a weird there's a tradition in this format where it's like the person is the unreliable narrator who kind of like turns out to be your kidnapper or whatever, and kind of like, I don't know, I'm babbling, but like, would you take over and say anything about that, or what has been your experience? I don't know if you're straight or gay or anything. I've never bothered to ask because I've been evolved by your podcast. But it's like whether you're whatever the category you might fit or not fit into, what has been your experience with representation, your obligations, your desires and things?
Well, one of the neat things about our show is that we have a cast of voice actors, writers, producers, and they're from all around the world. And they all record separately and send their parts in. And we have a really strong representation from the LGBTQ community, just in the team that creates the show. And
for you, is it kind of incidental? Like, were you like a straight guy in front of a microphone going like, I like horror, let's do this horror thing, and then one by one, people are like, by the way, I'm such and such, and and you're like, yes, and that's like it's like the Muppet movie. It works.
Yeah. It was never an issue. It was never at all. And then, as Dan mentioned, it seemed for some reason recently we did some stories that just happened to have same-sex couples. It wasn't a heavy gay theme. There was no gay sex or anything like that. It's just two people driving down the road and they're two married men.
Being gay on the road can be a bit of a problem. I saw a gay ghost staring at me. Yeah, it's not like you just add the word. Yeah.
And so we did these stories, and believe it or not, I got emails from people saying, what's with all the queer stuff? Why do you have, it adds nothing to the story. Why do you have all these same-sex things? And it was right around that time that we had, as a team, we were already thinking about putting together, for Pride Month, an episode that had every story would be written by someone from the LGBTQ community. And it was just, we're going to celebrate Pride Month, not because...
I just like that. I like that you pissed off somebody who complained.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. And so I put a little disclaimer on the next episode, the episode before the Pride episode, and basically said, look, we will do these stories, and if you don't like them, you're free to not listen. And I think I tried to inform our audience that, we've got voice actors and people on the show who, terrifyingly enough, are gay. and we got some blowback from that. There were people who canceled their subscriptions and all that kind of stuff. But
they would never say, by the way, this isn't this is because I love freedom. I perceive these sort of like these when I get these signals, they get ironically triggered by them and go like, oh, political correctness is coming, like, because there's like but I gotta say, as a pot-bellied 45-year-old straight white dude who has nothing to gain or lose, like, I honestly, and this may be the most insulting compliment of all time, but it really struck me as listening to that episode just yesterday and was like, I would recommend to a fan of like where I was going, like, you should listen to this. It's like really well produced, well written horror stories that have a modern context to them, but they have but they also have like a classy like foundation to them, a respect for the audio format and stuff like that. And I would go, actually, if you're going to start with anything, listen to it happens to be the LGBT. I would say like you'll find it that way, but it wouldn't be because it just happens to be. My point being that in addition to being inclusive, it's not like a handicap parking space. It's not this like thing of like, let's be proactive and break the cycle, which is also fine. But you've managed to gracefully do this thing because you've had this commune of artists. You're people who love reading stories and writing stories. They're all individuals, snowflakes, if you will. And each of them comes to the table, I assume, and going like, could I go here? Could I go there? Or could you represent this and that? And I'm psychically, osmotically interpreting are like me, and that you would go, yeah, because why would I put up a wall against that? And the result is truly not obnoxious. It's not saccharine. It's not watered down. It's anything. It's like it has all this extra flavor to it because there's something. I mean, look, fear, xenophobia, sex, fear, they all go kind of hand in hand, right? It's different from comedy. And I guess that's like my remaining like discussion point is like, what the hell is it with, what do we in these times where we're actually trying to be sensitive to each other, and when the reality is that when we go to bed together and when we speak around campfires to each other, when we want to get visceral reactions from each other, we want to be able to cross thresholds. That's literally the definition of a story, crossing boundaries. And yet and I'm not doing the old man thing where I'm like, we can't have fun anymore, because you're having fun, but you're not hurting anybody. It's very clear that you're not doing it in defiance. It's like, it's two things are very clear when I listen to that podcast. You guys don't give a shit about like whether or not somebody might boycott or anything like that. There's no pandering happening. And the next thing that's clear is that you definitely don't want to hurt anybody. I don't know how you could impart to somebody that we're listening. Is there some key to the philosophy, like the algorithm that you run, or is it simply you don't think about it and overthought doesn't happen?
Well, I fully agree, Dan, that I am pretty fucking awesome. But no, come on. No, it's definitely the latter. It's just, I don't care. And I know I've heard that lately. Some people say that as a straight person, if I say, look, I don't care if you're gay or straight or trans, and they say, well, that's not right. You got to be a little more sensitive. But no, to me, like you said, sex and horror are very intermingled. They're very much
Tell
a part
me
of
about
things.
Maybe the more interesting way is that like what's the kind of stuff that you get like submissions like, so what are the, and you can say I don't want to talk about this because I don't want you to know how the sausage is made, and is there something like do you have lines that you draw where like rules in your head that you run things through, so you go like, you know what, this is because this, go ahead. I'll stop asking the question so you can answer it.
There aren't a lot of hard and fast rules. As I mentioned earlier, we'll do a story if it implies, let's say, a sexual assault or a rape, something that isn't gratuitous. We're not going to have a 12-minute segment where you hear a person describe the graphic moments of them being raped and stuff like that. So we guard that line. But I remember way back, I think in season 3, we did a story. It was called Autopilot. And it basically told the story of something that you hear in the news every summer. And it's horrifyingly tragic. And it has to do with children being left in cars in the summertime. And so that's a story that I probably wouldn't do today, because fearing all the blowback and people saying, like we heard back from after that we did that show, somebody emailed me and said, are you going to keep doing stories where children are murdered? And I thought, well, the child wasn't murdered. It was a horrifying accident, but that's how his mind, as a father,
right,
he thought that. So you know, we like pushing people, and we say right at the top of every show, as Dan has so gracefully pointed out tonight with his imitation of me. Yeah, it's, you know, I say we do tales to frighten and disturb. And that key word, disturb, is, I think, lost on a lot of people.
Yeah.
We want people not just to be, you know, chills up the spine, ooh, that's spooky, but we want people to be genuinely uncomfortable and unsettled. And
Yeah, and I think you phrase it in a way that it's like this the most elegant kind of trigger warning that you could give, which is like it's something like, to paraphrase it, you're coming here to be frightened and disturbed on purpose or something like that. There's like you're coming here to do that.
you're choosing to be frightened and disturbed for your own entertainment.
Right,
And
there it
that's
is,
a big
yeah.
part of it. So they choose that.